Let's now take a look at a typical scan. So I'm going to open one of the scans, let's say this one. And the first thing you see is that we have this what's called preview. So the name of the file is selected. There are no results yet. This is like the scan the way it came from the scanner. So what we see here is just preliminary view of this scan. So this is not the entire point cloud that we have. We have here 2,500 frames here, as you can see, but this is only like 100 frames taken evenly throughout the scan. So this is like every 25th frame here on the screen, and it's very lightweight, it's very easy to move around, it's not much data here. And it's done specifically for this reason, because when you click on all frames, a lot of data is being loaded to your memory. And it may be difficult to handle sometimes. So we have a memory tab, for example, here, which shows us what kind of amount of memory we have at our disposal. So there is a 64 gigabytes of RAM, and 55 of them are free right now. And we have 4 gigs of video memory, and 3.8 of them are empty. So when I click on all frames, the entire data set will be loaded, and you can see that we consumed some of the free video memory here. If we don't have enough free memory, Nest will just use RAM, so it's not really a problem here. But still, this scan just consumes a lot of data. It occupies a lot of memory in your computer. So it's just something to remember. If you don't really need to look at all frames, you better to click on the name of the scan and get back to this preview mode. So now let's take a look inside. So if I click on this point here, I can see the list of frames. So what Scanner actually does is just project the grid on the object and then catches this grid and make this 3D frame. So what you see here is a single frame, and these are just little points. It may be very difficult to see if you zoom in, but if you click Alt and scroll your mouse wheel, you can change the size of those points. It's just for convenience, so it doesn't affect the data in any way. This is just a visual, okay? So if you keep those points that big when you zoom out, it probably would look very lumpy. So just click Alt and scroll down. You can also see all this here in navigation hints. So if you click this question mark, you'll see some of the mouse gestures that you can use. So the same goes with every single frame. So if you click through them, I'm using my mouse pointer here for that, I can just see what is in every single frame. So I can just sort of see the movie of how this object was scanned. And of course I can do this in the same way by selecting a few. So frame 1, frame 2, 3, 4, like I selected 5 frames, and you can see that they are stacked together and this shape is appearing. If I select more of them, of course I'll have this denser point cloud and more data, but of course if I just selected just a part of scan, some parts of them will be missing here because they are not selected. So you can always select any part of your scan like this and just analyze it. All right, so you can also see that some of those frames are marked with this pink square. These are so-called texture frames. So if you click on it, you can see it here in a preview, and if you hover a mouse pointer over it, you'll see the picture. This is actually the picture of the object taken during scanning, and by default it's done every 20th data frame. So we have 20 data frame, and every 20th of them is texture frame. You can see this parameter here. When you click on the scan, you can see the 20. This is the frequency of texture frames. You can change this during scanning if you like, but in most cases there is just no need for that. All right, so what strikes you right away is that when you open this type of scan, you already can see the object. It is of course a bit noisy. We have those flying parts around, but still we can understand what this object looks like, what it is, and so forth, because this scan is made with Live3D. I'm going to load a scan which was made without Live3D. This is the same object on the same table. Everything is the same, but the scan is made without Live3D. You can, by the way, see it over here. So when you click on the scan, you can see this pictogram over here, which means that the scan is made with Live3D. And on this scan, there is no such sign. And this is a scan without Live3D. And what you can see right away when it's loaded in that the picture is quite different. If you don't know what it is, it's difficult to even say what you're looking at, right? But still, what's important to understand that every single frame here looks pretty much the same as in our previous scan. So the scanning is really very good and the data is very good. So why we see this messy picture? It is because in Live3D mode that we have over here, the scanner, right when you're scanning, tries to stack up those separate frames in a proper order so that you have this consistent picture. In case of scan without Live3D, it can keep this consistency for a while. So if I select a few frames over here, you can see it looks more or less fine. But as I make more and more frames, you can see that this object starts to wobble and move around, and the point cloud become fuzzy. So why do we have such a parameter, such an option? Why would we scan it like this? Well, the thing is that Live3D requires a certain amount of computer resources, and it's heavier for a computer to scan in this mode. And if you have low specs computer, it may be very difficult for you to scan in Live3D mode, or sometimes it may be impossible at all. And in this case, at least you can try to scan without Live3D. You will have those messier scans that look like complete mess, and the processing of those scans will take longer, but actually if you do everything right, the result will be absolutely the same. So we can now take a look at the processing and just compare these two scans. How do they look after processing? But just before we begin, since we have our scanner plugged in, I just want to show you where Live3D is activated. So I can go to Show Scanner Screen and just go to the preview. And you can see this option here, Live3D is on. It is on because I've already switched it on before, but by default it's switched off. So it looks like this, it's sort of grayed out. So when you start scanning for the first time or on a new computer, don't forget to click on it so that you have this Live3D on option switched on. It's really, really useful. But we're going to look at the examples in another video where we're going to deal with the scanning. So I'm going to close this for now, and we're going to process these two scans just to compare the results of a scan without Live3D and with Live3D.